What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today I've got some more fantasy football lineup advice for you guys for Week 11 action. Today I've got 5 running backs to go out and start in your fantasy teams this week to give you that push you need to get in the playoffs. With the NFL season winding down here and every fantasy game meaning more than the last, make sure you guys have gone down and subscribed to the channel so you guys can get all my input and analysis on your guys' fantasy questions. If you guys ever have any of those, make sure to put them down in the comment section below. I'm happy to get to each and every single one of you guys. So make sure you guys subscribe. Feel free to ask any questions down below. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hit the intro and get into my 5 running backs. All right, my first running back to go out and give the start to this week is Nyheim Hines, who is seemingly grasping a hold of that Colts backfield. And this week, I love his matchup against my Green Bay Packers on Sunday afternoon. As a Packer fan, I can tell you guys, my team's run stop is awful, and we have been letting up big games to running backs all season long. Last week, against a one-dimensional football team with a backup quarterback, we still allowed James Robinson to run for over 100 yards by himself on the ground. Our tackling has been very poor this season, and guys who are very shifty and dynamic like Nyheim Hines give us struggles, and he is in for a big day. This is a very versatile player and a guy who can run and catch the ball. I think Nyheim Hines has over 100 scrimmage yards this week and is the lead back for that Colts offense. I wouldn't sleep too much on guys like Jonathan Taylor or Jordan Wilkins who can come out there and ground and pound in that cold Lambeau weather, but I think that those guys are a little bit more risky starts because they don't have that passing volume in their games. And for the explosive guy in the offense, that is Nyheim Hines, and he's the guy that can break away and score at any moment. So he is the guy I prefer in the Colts backfield week 11. The next player you guys need to go out and start this week in your lineups is Mike Davis, the Carolina Panthers back, who looks like he might get the start for the second straight week, and he's had a handful of them this season with CMC missing a bunch of time this year. But I think Mike Davis has an incredible ceiling this week, and he's a guy who has produced running back 1 numbers at times against good matchups when Christian McCaffrey has been off the field. I think Mike Davis against Detroit this week has another great opportunity to be involved heavily as a rusher and a receiver in that offense. Detroit has been really bad against running backs this season, and their rushing defense has struggled mightily all year long. Notably, 2 weeks ago, Dalvin Cook went for over 200 yards against them, and he had a couple scores in that game. And then last week, Antonio Gibson was very productive again as well. 2 scores on the ground for Gibson in that one, and what was actually a shootout. And Gibson being a very dynamic player just like Mike Davis, those guys are both players that can handle receiving work. I think they have very safe floors, and if they're able to find the end zone, these guys can have massive weeks. So Mike Davis has a lot of upside in week 11. I think his floor is somewhere around a high-end running back 2 player in your lineups, and he can even put up running back 1 numbers as well. This next guy up here is a player you guys, a lot of you in the comments have been worried about and asking if you should actually drop Duke Johnson, but I'm here to tell you guys to be patient with him. Give him 1 more week before you make a decision like that. I think this guy still warrants a roster spot and a starting job in fantasy while David Johnson is out of the lineup. From his days dating back to his time in Cleveland, Duke Johnson has excelled primarily at one skill, and that has been his elite versatility as a receiving back. In Week 10, the Texans had terrible weather that they were up against, and they were not able to throw the football whatsoever. I think that really made them predictable, and the Browns knew that they just had to stack the box to stop this team. The Texans want to run the football, and obviously they want to throw as well with Deshaun Watson, but they were just forced to be one-dimensional due to the game conditions. So I think Duke Johnson, like I said, as a guy who is a receiving back, he had 0 catches in Week 10, 14 carries for 54 yards in a game when you're expecting a primary run offense out of a team in that terrible weather. He still averaged almost 4 yards per carry, and I expect his touches to go up this week against New England. Duke Johnson also didn't find the end zone. Houston only had 1 total touchdown on the day. And I think against the Pats, in a game when the Texans will score more points, in a game when they can be more dynamic offensively, Duke Johnson should have the opportunity to score a touchdown and at the very least be more involved in the receiving game. So I think this is a guy who we have seen really a nightmare-type performance out of him, and he should see an increase in touches as well. So Duke Johnson, I would give him 1 more chance in your flex this week at the very least. He deserves consideration in your lineups. Kalen Ballage is another guy I think you guys should go out and start this week, and he's been generating some fancy excitement, and rightfully so. He's shown that he can produce nice numbers, and over the past couple weeks, when Justin Jackson has been on the lineup, Austin Eckler, we're still waiting on a return from him, he's actually seeing an increase in touches, and he's being used as both a rusher and a receiver, which is something I love to see in fantasy. I love running backs that are used dynamically in both phases of the game, and I think that Kalen Ballage has shown that he can do that. He looked like a bust on the Dolphins, but as a member of the Chargers, he looks a lot better and much improved. This is a guy who had 17 total touches in Week 9 and all the way up to 23 in Week 10, where he caught 5 passes. He scored a touchdown in Week 9, but didn't in Week 10, and still put up those nice numbers because he was used in the receiving game. So Kalen Ballage has proved his versatility to us. He has shown that he is going to be used in that Chargers offense well, and a guy you can trust in your lineups, especially this week against the Jets. I think Kalen Ballage loses some value here in Week 12 with an expected return from Austin Eckler, but I think he will still be used sparingly in that game. So Kalen Ballage, though, for Week 11 is still a must-start player. I think he's a very high upside running back too this week, and a guy you can trust on your teams. My last must-start running back for Week 11 is DeAndre Swift, and he has gotten the green light from me again. He had it a couple weeks ago when he still wasn't technically the starter, and then as soon as I was able to put him in my lineups and was comfortable starting him, DeAndre Swift had a terrible game, and then I said, pump the brakes a little bit, let's wait and see what he does. And he was finally given the opportunity to start last week against the Washington football team, and that is a very solid defense, and Swift delivered. This week, he's got the Carolina Panthers, who have been very susceptible to the run all season long, and DeAndre Swift being such a high-level rusher and receiver, that's probably what he does best, is catch passes out of the backfield and make explosive plays happen. I really like the value he gives you in your lineups. I think this guy is starting to kind of creep into that top 12 to 14 running back range, and a guy who has a massive ceiling due to that versatility. So I really like DeAndre Swift again this week. I think going forward, if you guys were able to get a hold of this guy at the trade deadline, you guys are in for a league-winning type player. He is very versatile and dynamic, and a very good fantasy player to have on your team. Great asset. If you guys went out and got him, great job to you guys. He is going to win games down the stretch this year, and DeAndre Swift is a must-start going forward. I tossed some honorable mention wide receivers in last video, so I'll put another running back in here. Damien Harris against the Houston Texans should have a nice game. He is being used as a bell cow right now for the Pats offense, while Sony Michel is on the injured reserve. And I actually think Damien Harris is the best running back on this roster. Obviously, Rex Burkhead has his games. They use him very well as a receiver and a rusher, and sometimes he snags some touchdowns away, which can be annoying. But Damien Harris has been the guy getting the bulk of the carries. We've seen him over 14 touches multiple times in the last few weeks here, and I think that he's going to be used quite well again this week. Houston has not been a good team defensively up front or in the back end, so I think he has a lot of opportunity to run efficiently in Week 11. Those are my top 5 running backs to start in Week 11 fantasy football. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and turn that bell on so you guys are notified whenever I come out with a new video. I really appreciate each and every single one of you guys, and if you ever have any fantasy questions for me, feel free to put those in the comments down below. I'm happy to get to each and every single one of you guys, and I really like helping you guys out. So, thanks again so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.